Welcome to the Landmark Center. I'm Ethan Castle. I'm Benjamin Castle, and we'd like to officially welcome you to America's Brownlow. We hatched this idea during the 2023 season and decided to make it a reality this year. Like many of you, we took exception to some of the Brownlow results. A lot of the Brownlow results. As Jerry Cameron pointed out, only midfielders can win it. Last year, Rowan Marshall was dominant and helped the Saints make an unexpected finals appearance. He got 3 votes. We each had him somewhere between 10 and 15, so we decided to take matters into our own hands and make our own votes. So I just want to give you a bit of insight into the America's Brownlow team. We're a bunch of unique individuals, Benjamin and myself. We're going to engage with our minds and our hearts. We're going to exchange ideas, thoughts, and even our energy. And to speak from the heart, you need to have courage. You need to be honest and authentic. We're not always going to get it right, and sometimes you're not going to agree with us. But that's okay, because just like you, we care. Just like you, we're passionate about the game. So if you want to come along for the ride, join us on America's Brownlow night, because we just love the footy. Thanks, Basil. I know that was low-hanging fruit. That kind of had to be done. We're going to go with some more, creative stuff the rest of the way, but that was necessary. So this is a celebration not only of the world's greatest sport and its players and personalities, even though the odds of any of them actually watching this are very slim. The odds of any of them even looking at the spreadsheet, maybe a couple will. But this is a celebration of a completed home and away season, and also a celebration of us, because we went through every game, deliberated, really put time into our votes. And this isn't just the best midfielder award. We really looked at this with the idea of who did the most to help their team win or try to win, because, you can still get votes if you're losing.
That's something that we probably have more of than the regular Brownlow.
I am looking forward to, as we're recording this before the actual Brownlow night, comparing our votes to the umpires. I think ours are going to be more in line with the coaches' votes, but we wanted to also uphold the prestige and tradition of Brownlow night through our own sort of silly and irreverent model. So here's to us.
No cheers, no nothing. Let's get into it.
The 2024 season got off to a unique start with opening round, and after an ugly first half of the first game, it delivered on the hype. Brody Grundy showed he still got a lot in the tank against his former team, and Carlton staged a memorable comeback at the Gabba. Matt Rowell had a record-setting day to help lift him to his first win with the Suns over his old club, and the Giants' forward line stuck it to the reigning premiers.
Opening round. Sydney 86, Melbourne 64. Melbourne, J. Viney 1 vote. Sydney, B. Grundy 2 votes. Sydney, I. Heaney 3 votes. Brisbane 85, Carlton 86. Carlton, D. Cunningham 1 vote. Carlton, C. Curnow 2 votes. Carlton, H. Mackay 3 votes. Gold Coast 99, Richmond 60. Gold Coast, B. King 1 vote. Gold Coast, W. Powell 2 votes. Gold Coast, M. Rowell 3 votes. GWS 114, Collingwood 82. GWS C. Iden 1 vote. GWS J. Hogan 2 votes. GWS C. Brown 3 votes. Callum Brown is a forward.
Round 1 began with the traditional Carlton-Richmond showdown, and the Blues escaped, thanks in part to their Coleman medalists' contributions on the defensive end. Collingwood raised their flag, but Sydney took home the 4 points in convincing fashion behind the combination of Heaney and Warner. Essendon pulled away from Hawthorn in the final quarter of what's become a Round 1 staple. Jesse Hogan's 6 goals in big games from Jake Riccardi and Tom Green propelled the Giants to 2-0. Patrick Dangerfield's captain's goal sealed a Geelong win over St Kilda, and the Suns outlasted Adelaide in the rain. Leighton Oliver returned to form as the D's won what's become their traditional season opener over the Dogs. Port Adelaide had no trouble with West Coast, and Freo overcame a nightmarish start to down the Lions behind Caleb Serong's 46 disposals. Oh, and Bryant threw a shoot.
Round 1. Carlton 86, Richmond 81. Carlton N. Newman 1 vote. Carlton M. McGovern 2 votes. Richmond N. Vlostone 3 votes. Collingwood 69, Sydney 102. Sydney. Nice. Yes, of course. Sydney, Al McDonald, 1 vote. Sydney, Chad Warner, 2 votes. Sydney, I. Heaney, 3 votes. Essendon 107, Hawthorn 83. Essendon, Z. Merritt, 1 vote. It is Z. Essendon, J. Strayer, 2 votes. Essendon, A. Perkins, 3 votes. GWS 121, North Melbourne 82. GWS, J. Hogan, 1 vote. GWS, J. Riccardi, 2 votes. GWS, Tom Green, 3 votes. Geelong 76, St Kilda 68. Geelong, J. Kolajasti, 1 vote. St Kilda, L. Henry, 2 votes. Geelong, M. Holmes, 3 votes. Gold Coast 60, Adelaide 54. Gold Coast, T. Miller, 1 vote. Gold Coast, N. Anderson, 2 votes. Gold Coast, M. Rowell, 3 votes. Melbourne 109, Western Bulldogs 64. Melbourne, M. Gawn, 1 vote. Melbourne, C. Oliver, 2 votes. Melbourne, C. Petrarca, 3 votes. Port Adelaide 120, West Coast 70. Port Adelaide, J. Horde Francis, 1 vote. Port Adelaide, Z. Butters, 2 votes. Port Adelaide, C. Rosie, 3 votes. Fremantle 93, Brisbane 70. Fremantle, L. Jackson, 1 vote. Fremantle, L. Ryan, 2 votes. Fremantle, C. Sarong, 3 votes. The Saints opened round 2 with a rousing victory in Spud's game, sending the Pies to 0-3. Despite an Oval Invaders' best efforts to steal the spotlight, Tom Stewart owned Friday night in his 150th game as the Cats scored a road win over the Crows. Fremantle rallied from a 30-point deficit to beat the Roos at Marvel. Hawthorn struggled in an ugly loss to Melbourne, and Sydney's offensive firepower was on display in a heated win over Essendon. Cody Waitman's 4-goal first quarter propelled the Dogs past the Suns in Ballarat. Port Adelaide proved too much for Richmond, and the Giants avoided a repeat of 2023 with a lopsided win at West Coast. Round 2. St Kilda 94, Collingwood 79. St Kilda, J. Higgins, 1 vote. St Kilda, J. Battle, 2 votes. St Kilda, N. Wanganeen Malera, 3 votes. Adelaide 77, Geelong 96. Geelong, M. O'Connor, 1 vote. Geelong, G. Myers, 2 votes. Geelong, T. Stewart, 3 votes. North Melbourne 76, Fremantle 102. Fremantle, J. Clark, 1 vote. Fremantle, A. Brayshaw, 2 votes. Fremantle, L. Jackson, 3 votes. Hawthorn 38, Melbourne 93. Melbourne, M. Gawn, 1 vote. Melbourne, A. Neil Boland, 2 votes. Melbourne, C. Petrarca, 3 votes. Sydney 131, Essendon 101. Sydney, I. Heaney, 1 vote. Sydney, M. Roberts, 2 votes. Sydney, E. Golden, 3 votes. Western Bulldogs 115, Gold Coast 67. Western Bulldogs, A. Naughton, 1 vote. Western Bulldogs, R. Sanders, 2 votes. Western Bulldogs, M. Bontempelli, 3 votes. Richmond 92, Port Adelaide 122. Port Adelaide, K. Farrell, 1 vote. Port Adelaide, W. Drew, 2 votes. Port Adelaide, Z. Butters, 3 votes. West Coast 43, GWS 108. GWS, L. Whitfield, 1 vote. GWS, Tom Green, 2 votes. GWS, K. Briggs, 3 votes. It was a good night for Collingwood and a bad night for the rest of the league as the Pies opened up Easter round with a win over the Lions, who lost a second at the Gabba. Curnow and Mackay dominated on Good Friday, while Adelaide looked listless and fell to 0-3 in the nightcap at hot-starting Fremantle. Essendon scratched out a win over the Saints. Melbourne won a thriller at Port Adelaide. The Dogs took out an off-season's worth of frustrations on the Eagles. Richmond got Adam Uze's first win, and Geelong outlasted the Hawks and a lightning delay on Easter Monday. Surprised you didn't say Essendon edged one out. Giggity, giggity. Round 3. Brisbane 72, Collingwood 92. Collingwood, J. Elliott, 1 vote. Collingwood, and Dacos, 2 votes. Brisbane, Al Neal, 3 votes. North Melbourne 81, Carlton 137. Carlton, P. Cripps, 1 vote. Carlton, A. Chera, 2 votes. Carlton, G. Hewitt, 3 votes. Fremantle 69, nice. Adelaide 34. Fremantle, J. Clark, 1 vote. Fremantle, A. Pierce, 2 votes. Fremantle, H. Young, 3 votes. Essendon 71, St Kilda 67. St Kilda, J. Steele, 1 vote. Essendon, Z. Barrett, 2 votes. St Kilda, S. Ross, 3 votes. Port Adelaide 89, Melbourne 96. Melbourne, C. Petrarca, 1 vote. Melbourne A. Neil Bullen, 2 votes. Port Adelaide W. Drew, 3 votes. Western Bulldogs 106, West Coast 30. Western Bulldogs A. Trelaw, 1 vote. Western Bulldogs L. Vandermeer, 2 votes. Western Bulldogs T. English, 3 votes. Richmond 82 defeated Sydney 77. What? Yeah. Richmond T. Taranto, 1 vote. Richmond S. Bolton, 2 votes. Richmond N. Vlostone, 3 votes. Hawthorn 70, Geelong 106. Geelong Z. Guthrie, 1 vote. Hawthorn J. Warple, 2 votes. Geelong B. Parfitt, 3 votes. The footy world descended on Adelaide for Gather Round, but the Crows couldn't capitalize on the heightened attention as they lost a 4th straight game against the D's, with Stephen May battling through broken ribs. The Lions snapped their skid by trouncing the Roos at Norwood. Port rolled past Essendon, and the Eagles put up a quality effort. No, really, we're not kidding. Before succumbing to the Swans. Controversy surrounded Carlton as the Blues kicked 2 in the final minute to edge the Dockers in a battle of unbeatens in a game that surely didn't have any implications at the end of the season. No, not at all. And the Cats stayed perfect by holding off a late Bulldogs charge. The Giants also stayed perfect, spoiling a trio of Suns debuts as Toby Green kicked 5. While the Saints overcame a horrendous first half to top the Tigers in candy stripes, and the round ended with a thriller as Collingwood held on for dear life to keep the Hawks winless. Round 4. Adelaide 63, Melbourne 78. Melbourne J. McVie, 1 vote. Melbourne J. Lever, 2 votes. Melbourne C. Petrarca, 3 votes. Brisbane 112, North Melbourne 42. Brisbane J. Danaher, 1 vote. Brisbane L. Neal, 2 votes. Brisbane J. Dunkley, 3 votes. Port Adelaide 111, Essendon 42. Port Adelaide Z. Butters, 1 vote. Port Adelaide J. Horn Francis, 2 votes. Port Adelaide C. Rosie, 3 votes. West Coast 78, Sydney 104. West Coast J. Hunt, 1 vote. Sydney E. Golden, 2 votes. Sydney I. Heaney, 3 votes. Fremantle 63, Carlton 73. Carlton C. Curnow, 1 vote. Fremantle J. Aish, 2 votes. Fremantle A. Brayshaw, 3 votes. Western Bulldogs 91, Geelong 95. Geelong G. Myers, 1 vote. Western Bulldogs M. Bontempelli, 2 votes. Western Bulldogs T. Liberatore, 3 votes. Gold Coast 89, GWS 117. GWS J. Hogan, 1 vote. Gold Coast S. Cloesy, 2 votes. GWS S. Cornelio, 3 votes. Richmond 60, St. Kilda 67. St. Kilda J. Sinclair, 1 vote. St. Kilda J. Steele, 2 votes. Richmond S. Bolton, 3 votes. Collingwood 77, Hawthorn 72. Hawthorn J. Newcomb, 1 vote. Collingwood T. Mitchell, 2 votes. Collingwood J. DeGoey, 3 votes. The Lions roared to open round 5, proving that their best is absolutely unstoppable with a convincing triumph over the D's and a rare win at the G. Essendon followed that up by not only beating the Bulldogs, but stunning the footy world by completely outplaying their midfield. The Giants made it 5-0, holding off a late charge from the Saints, and super sub Sam Barry's late winner gave the Crows their first win of the year while spoiling Carlton's perfect record. A whole host of young Suns got their first win against the Hawks, while the Power got a late goal from Jason Horne-Francis to overcome Alex Pearson and inspired Dockers' side. Geelong took care of the Roos at home on Sunday afternoon, with Jeremy Cameron cashing in 6, and the Eagles won. Yeah, they won. What? Jake Watering kicked 6 goals, and Harvey Reid celebrated his first career win at the expense of an injury-laden Richmond squad. Round 5. Melbourne 60, Brisbane 82. Brisbane R. Lester, 1 vote. Brisbane L. Neal, 2 votes. Brisbane C. Rayner, 3 votes. Western Bulldogs 67, Essendon 96. Essendon J. Stringer, 1 vote. Essendon Z. Barrett, 2 votes. Essendon S. Durham, 3 votes. GWS 80, St. Kilda 79. GWS Tom Green, 1 vote. GWS L. Ash, 2 votes. St. Kilda B. Hill, 3 votes. Carlton 98, Adelaide 100. Adelaide R. Laird, 1 vote. Adelaide I. Reichen, 2 votes. Carlton S. Walsh, 3 votes. Gold Coast 109, Hawthorn 56. Gold Coast W. Graham, 1 vote. Gold Coast M. Rowell 2 votes. Gold Coast T. Miller 3 votes. Port Adelaide 66, Fremantle 63. Port Adelaide Z. Butters 1 vote. Fremantle A. Pierce 2 votes. Fremantle J. Tracy 3 votes. Geelong 139, North Melbourne 64. Geelong M. Holmes 1 vote. Geelong J. Bowes 2 votes. Geelong J. Cameron 3 votes. West Coast 109, Richmond 70. West Coast T. Kelly 1 vote. West Coast E. Yo 2 votes. West Coast J. Waterman 3 votes. In round 6, Jack McRae proved that he belongs in the team, leading the way through the middle as the Bulldogs gashed the Saints on Thursday night. Adelaide's heartbreak continued as the Crows were edged out by Essendon, with Sam Draper sparking a debate over what constitutes holding the ball. A fly landed on Matthew Nicks's head, but come Saturday, it was Fly and the Pies who were celebrating after overcoming an early 29-point deficit to roll past the Power. The Giants suffered their first loss as injuries left them with no match for Patrick Cripps and Sam Walsh, and the Cats silenced their fellow felines on a wet night at the Gabba, sending Brisbane to an unfathomable 0-3 at home. West Coast snapped a 5-game losing streak to the Dockers with a terrific performance up and down the team, spearheaded by another stellar performance from Harley Reid. The Swans outclassed the inexperienced Suns on Sunday, and Hawthorn's midfield lived up to the hype as the Hawks left the Roos in their dust as the only winless team. Round 6. St. Kilda 64, Western Bulldogs 124. Western Bulldogs A. Naughton 1 vote. Western Bulldogs B. Dale 2 votes. Western Bulldogs J. McRae 3 votes. Adelaide 75, Essendon 78. Essendon N. Cox 1 vote. Essendon J. Caldwell 2 votes. Adelaide J. Dawson 3 votes. Collingwood 123, Port Adelaide 81. Collingwood J. DeGoey 1 vote. Collingwood D. Cameron 2 votes. Collingwood W. Hoskin Elliott 3 votes. Carlton 117, GWS 98. Carlton B. Akers 1 vote. Carlton S. Walsh 2 votes. Carlton P. Cripps 3 votes. Brisbane 37, Geelong 63. Geelong M. Holmes 1 vote. Brisbane D. Zorko 2 votes. Geelong T. Stengel 3 votes. West Coast 105, Fremantle 68. West Coast E. Yo 1 vote. West Coast R. Jinby 2 votes. West Coast H. Reed 3 votes. Sydney 110, Gold Coast 57. Sydney N. Blakey 1 vote. Sydney J. McInerney 2 votes. Sydney B. Grundy 3 votes. North Melbourne 68, Hawthorn 113. Hawthorn C. McDonald 1 vote. Hawthorn H. Morrison 2 votes. Hawthorn J. Newcomb 3 votes. Now that we've gotten through the first batch of buys, let's take a look at the overall leaderboard. Isaac Heaney and Christian Petrarca pacing the field. Of course, we know those two will, for multiple reasons, fall off later in the season. A couple of surprise names in here so far, Nick Flostone among them. See, this isn't just a midfielder's award, we told you. And a couple of stars yet to really make their push up the board just yet. It's time now to recognize Mark of the Year. We don't have a car to give anyone. Maybe we could send someone a Hot Wheels car, but shipping things across the ocean is expensive, and we're already shipping some things to the actual winner of the Brownlow medal, so unless people start funding us more, we're just going to have to give them a congratulatory wave. By the way, check out our links in the bottom of this YouTube description or on Spotify to go to our support page. Thank you in advance, or not. Your 3 nominees for Mark of the Year. Jamie Elliott over Ben Mackay in round 7.
What about that for an Anzac Day spectacular?
Kalamachi over Nathan Broad in round 10. And Bobby Hill over Jackson Archer and Billy Frampton in round 14.
Hill's back in the square. Bobby Hill!
And your winner of Mark of the Year, to nobody's surprise, is Jamie Elliott, turning Ben Mackay into a $1 million stepladder in round 7 in front of more than 93,000 on Anzac Day. Speaking of round 7, Anzac Round was spread out over 5 days, and it started with the D's overcoming a slow first half to beat the Tigers. The next day, as Ethan mentioned, more than 93,000 filled the G, to watch Essendon and Collingwood late withdraw. And the Giants finished the night off with a resounding win over the Lions in Canberra. The Power topped the Saints at home despite a series of injuries. Adelaide secured 4 points at Tasmania by blowing past the Roos, and the Cats stayed perfect, with Jeremy Cameron kicking 5 and Zach Toohey adding 3 to win a shootout against his former side in the Blues. The Dockers put an end to their losing streak by beating the Dogs in the Len Hall tribute game. The Suns improved to 4-0 at home by pulling away from the Harley Reidless Eagles. And while it was Hawthorne's day to see off Buddy Franklin, the Swans were the better birds, outclassing the Hawks by 76 points. Round 7. Richmond 42, Melbourne 85. Melbourne, J. Lever 1 vote. Melbourne, D. Turner 2 votes. Melbourne, M. Gaughan 3 votes. Essendon 85, Collingwood 85. Essendon, J. Stringer 1 vote. Collingwood, N. Dacos 2 votes. Essendon, A. McGrath 3 votes. That's how you pronounce that name. GWS 113, Brisbane 59. GWS, H. Perryman 1 vote. GWS, Tom Green 2 votes. GWS, F. Callahan 3 votes. Port Adelaide 82, St. Kilda 72. Port Adelaide, W. Drew 1 vote. Port Adelaide, J. Burgoyne 2 votes. Port Adelaide, Z. Butters 3 votes. North Melbourne 81, Adelaide 138. Adelaide, I. Rankin 1 vote. Adelaide, J. Dawson 2 votes. Adelaide, R. Laird 3 votes. Geelong 118, Carlton 105. Geelong, G. Myers 1 vote. Carlton, M. Pittonet 2 votes. Geelong, J. Cameron 3 votes. Fremantle 95, Western Bulldogs 71. Western Bulldogs, B. Dale 1 vote. Fremantle, N. Fife 2 votes. Fremantle, C. Sarong 3 votes. Gold Coast 112, West Coast 75. Gold Coast, M. Rowell 1 vote. Gold Coast, N. Anderson 2 votes. Gold Coast, J. Witts 3 votes. Hawthorn 42, Sydney 118. Sydney, J. McInerney 1 vote. Sydney, I. Heaney 2 votes. Sydney, Chad Warner 3 votes. The unofficial rivalry round kicked off with a wet fart, as Port Adelaide couldn't handle the Crows in either 50, despite the horny one's best efforts in the midfield. Nick Dacos seized the moment yet again, this time kicking the late winner as the Pies picked their old rivals. It was all Swans in a comfortable Sydney Derby win. The Saints cracked 100 points for the first time in 2024, and the D's spoiled Geelong's perfect start. Essendon held on late to beat the Eagles out west. Freo had little trouble with the Tigers, and the Hawks outcoached the Dogs, winning by 7 despite Marcus Bontempelli's excellent. Pressure made diamonds in the Q clash, as the Lions roared with their backs against the wall, blowing past the Suns despite a series of injuries and an unexpected McDonald's Field debut. Round 8. Adelaide 78, Port Adelaide 48. Adelaide, J. Dawson 1 vote. Adelaide, J. Saligo 2 votes. Adelaide, J. Worrell 3 votes. Carlton 79, Collingwood 85. Collingwood, D. Moore 1 vote. Carlton, J. Wiedering 2 votes. Collingwood, and Dacos 3 votes. Sydney 98, GWS 69. Nice! Sydney, W. Hayward 1 vote. Sydney, Chad Warner 2 votes. Sydney, J. Robon 3 votes. St. Kilda 103, North Melbourne 65. St. Kilda, B. Hill 1 vote. St. Kilda, J. Sinclair 2 votes. St. Kilda, D. Wilson 3 votes. Melbourne 74, Geelong 66. Melbourne, M. Gaughan 1 vote. Geelong, M. Holmes 2 votes. Melbourne, H. Petty 3 votes. West Coast 71, Essendon 77. West Coast, T. Kelly 1 vote. Essendon, N. Martin 2 votes. Essendon, C. Merritt 3 votes. Richmond 49, Fremantle 103. Fremantle, L. Ryan 1 vote. Fremantle, H. Young 2 votes. Fremantle, C. Sarong 3 votes. Western Bulldogs 91, Hawthorn 98. Hawthorn, L. Meek 1 vote. Hawthorn, J. Impey 2 votes. Western Bulldogs, M. Bontempelli 3 votes. Brisbane 79, Gold Coast 45. Brisbane, D. Zorko 1 vote. Brisbane, J. Dunkley 2 votes. Brisbane, L. Neal 3 votes.
Carlton and Melbourne opened round 9 with yet another thriller, but it looked ugly early as the Blues jumped out to a massive lead, one on to which they held in the dying moments. Port Adelaide ended a long drought at Geelong thanks to a 50-point first quarter, and Sydney rolled past an inaccurate Freo team playing with heavy hearts after the loss of Cam McCarthy. Ross Ball couldn't stop Hawthorn from a third win in 4 weeks. The Bombers proved their legitimacy with a win over the Giants, and the Bulldogs rolled over a hapless Tigers squad at the G. Gold Coast continued to roll in the Northern Territory against North. Collingwood blitzed the short-handed Eagles, and Adelaide and Brisbane finished the round off with one of the best games of the year, playing to a thrilling Mother's Day draw.
Round 9. Carlton 77, Melbourne 76. Carlton J. Wiedering 1 vote. Melbourne C. Petrarca 2 votes. Carlton P. Cripps 3 votes. Geelong 95, Port Adelaide 101. Port Adelaide J. Horn Francis 1 vote. Port Adelaide A. Alir 2 votes. Port Adelaide Z. Butters 3 votes. Fremantle 39, Sydney 87. Sydney O. Florent 1 vote. Sydney J. Lloyd 2 votes. Sydney I. Heaney 3 votes. Hawthorn 58, St. Kilda 53. Hawthorn J. Newcomb 1 vote. Hawthorn W. Day 2 votes. Hawthorn K. Amon 3 votes. Essendon 82, GWS 62. Essendon M. Guelphy 1 vote. Essendon K. Langford 2 votes. Essendon N. Hound 3 votes. Richmond 42, Western Bulldogs 133. Western Bulldogs M. Bontempelli 1 vote. Western Bulldogs A. Treloar 2 votes. Western Bulldogs E. Richards 3 votes. Gold Coast 120, North Melbourne 52. Gold Coast B. Hewland 1 vote. Gold Coast M. Andrew 2 votes. Gold Coast T. Miller 3 votes. Collingwood 103, West Coast 37. Collingwood S. Pendlebury 1 vote. Collingwood J. Crisp 2 votes. Collingwood N. Dacos 3 votes. Adelaide 90, Brisbane 90. Adelaide I. Rankin 1 vote. Brisbane H. Andrews 2 votes. Adelaide J. Dawson 3 votes. Gold Coast opened round 10 with more Darwin dominance, smashing records in a win over the Cats. The Swans looked like flag favorites after falling into an early hole against the Blues at the Marlbrook game, and Isaac Rankin sparked a lively discussion over if 24.2 was larger than 15 at the end of the Crows' loss to the Pies. The Giants' struggles continued as Ed Richards dominated again for the Dogs, who overcame inaccuracy for a big road win. Fremantle also overcame inaccurate goal-kicking to beat the Saints, while the Lions put up the first 100-point win, winning by 119 at Richmond's expense. Essendon rose to second place, pulling away from the Roos in the second half, and Darcy Byrne-Jones' late winner gave Port Adelaide a thrilling victory after trailing by 41 late in the third quarter against Hawthorn. The round finished with more Harley Reid excellence, this time with a do-it-yourself goal in the Eagles' surprising 35-point win over the Demons.
Round 10, Gold Coast 164, Geelong 100. Gold Coast J. Lukosius 1 vote. Gold Coast N. Anderson 2 votes. Gold Coast M. Rao 3 votes. Sydney 117, Carlton 65. Sydney J. Jordan 1 vote. Sydney I. Heaney 2 votes. Sydney Chad Warner 3 votes. Collingwood 78, Adelaide 74. Collingwood S. Pendlebury 1 vote. Collingwood N. Dacos 2 votes. Adelaide I. Rankin 3 votes. GWS 43, Western Bulldogs 70. Western Bulldogs J. Harms 1 vote. GWS J. Hogan 2 votes. Western Bulldogs E. Richards 3 votes. St. Kilda 55, Fremantle 72. Fremantle Cecil Wrong 1 vote. Fremantle A. Brayshaw 2 votes. Fremantle J. Clark 3 votes. Brisbane 163, Richmond 44.
Well, I'm not laughing at you, Richmond. We're laughing at somebody else.
Brisbane K. Lowen 1 vote. Brisbane D. Zorko 2 votes. Brisbane L. Neal 3 votes. Essendon 106, North Melbourne 66.
North Melbourne, L. Davies Uniacke, 1 vote. Essendon, P. Wright, 2 votes. Essendon, J. Caldwell, 3 votes. Port Adelaide, 80. Hawthorn, 79. Port Adelaide, Z. Butters, 1 vote. Port Adelaide, J. Horn Francis, 2 votes. Hawthorn, W. Day, 3 votes. West Coast, 105. Melbourne, 70. West Coast, H. Reed, 1 vote. West Coast, T. Kelly, 2 votes. West Coast, J. Waterman, 3 votes. Another quick look at the leaderboard. Isaac Heaney remains in front. We've got 10 players already receiving 9 votes or more. Couple of surprise participants in there so far. Christian Petrarca still at 12, though his season, of course, doesn't have many more games in it, so for him to finish much beyond that would be quite the story. Also, strong performances so far from Matt Rowell and Caleb Sarong. Jordan Dawson has also made a nice push, pulling 9 votes across his past 4 games. Sydney continued to look like premiership favourites in round 11 despite a firm challenge from the Dogs, but Ed Richards' injury was a fatal blow to the hosts. Fremantle's thrilling comeback against Collingwood gave us our 3rd draw of the year. 3 draws in 5 rounds. The Horny One racked up 10 clearances in a win over the Roos, and Damien Hardwick's Marvel struggles continued as the Blues outclassed the Suns. The Giants left Geelong with 4 points for a 4th straight trip thanks to Lek Alir's heroics. And Essendon emerged victorious at Dreamtime, overcoming a valiant effort from the short-handed Tigers. Hawthorn's mastery of the Lions continued at Marvel. The D's had little trouble with the Saints, and the Eagles gave their fans painful memories of the prior 2 seasons with a 99-point loss at Adelaide. Round 11. Western Bulldogs, 88. Sydney, 102. Sydney N. Blakey, 1 vote. Sydney E. Golden, 2 votes. Sydney Chad Warner, 3 votes. Fremantle, 75. Collingwood, 75. Fremantle J. Sharp, 1 vote. Collingwood N. Dacos, 2 votes. Fremantle J. Clark, 3 votes. North Melbourne, 48. Port Adelaide, 107. Port Adelaide T. Boak, 1 vote. Port Adelaide J. Horn Francis, 2 votes. Port Adelaide E. Radugalea, 3 votes. Carlton, 102. Gold Coast, 73. Carlton N. Newman, 1 vote. Carlton T. DeConing, 2 votes. Carlton P. Cripps, 3 votes. Geelong, 74. GWS, 78. Geelong M. Holmes, 1 vote. GWS L. Alir, 2 votes. GWS Toby Green, 3 votes. Richmond, 74. Essendon, 86. Essendon Z. Merritt, 1 vote. Essendon N. Hind, 2 votes. Essendon J. Ridley, 3 votes. Hawthorn, 100. Brisbane, 75. Hawthorn W. Day, 1 vote. Hawthorn J. Sicily, 2 votes. Hawthorn J. Warple, 3 votes. Melbourne, 100. St. Kilda, 62. Melbourne A. Tomlinson, 1 vote. Melbourne J. Viney, 2 votes. Melbourne M. Gawn, 3 votes. Adelaide, 137. West Coast, 38. Adelaide M. Crouch, 1 vote. Adelaide L. Scholl, 2 votes. Adelaide J. Dawson, 3 votes. The Blues entered 2024 winless at the Adelaide Oval, but opened up round 12 with their 2nd win at the venue and first over the Power thanks to a huge 4th quarter from their captain. Speaking of captains, Marcus Bontempelli's dazzling 4th quarter lifted the Dogs past the Pies in a battle of short-handed foes, and the Hawks continued their hot form with a resounding win over Adelaide. The Saints rose into the 4th to top the Eagles and end a string of 6 losses in 7 games, and after an ugly first half, the Cats found their stride to beat Richmond, who had made a rare trip down the highway. Freo traveled to Alice Springs and handed the Demons their worst loss since 2016, and the Suns won a tight one in front of the Bombers in front of one of their best home crowds. Round 12. Port Adelaide, 71. Carlton, 107. Carlton S. Walsh, 1 vote. Carlton P. Cripps, 2 votes. Port Adelaide J. Horn Francis, 3 votes. Collingwood, 82. Western Bulldogs, 100. Western Bulldogs A. Treloar, 1 vote. Collingwood and Dacos, 2 votes. Western Bulldogs M. Bontempelli, 3 votes. Hawthorn, 107. Adelaide, 80. Hawthorn J. Newcomb, 1 vote. Hawthorn W. Day, 2 votes. Hawthorn D. Moore, 3 votes. West Coast 68, St Kilda 82. St Kilda M. Lindhager, 1 vote. St Kilda N. Wagadine Millera, 2 votes. St Kilda M. Wood, 3 votes. Wood. Geelong 99, Richmond 69. Nice. Geelong O. Dempsey, 1 vote. Geelong T. Atkins, 2 votes. Geelong J. Bowes, 3 votes. Melbourne 49, Fremantle 141. Fremantle A. Brayshaw, 1 vote. Fremantle J. Tracy, 2 votes. Fremantle H. Young, 3 votes. Gold Coast 91, Essendon 80. Gold Coast B. Long, 1 vote. Essendon Z. Merritt, 2 votes. Gold Coast M. Rowell, 3 votes. We'll give our next leaderboard update after the end of the bye round recaps because, those have started, but we've got something else very important to take care of at this time. We've got a brand new award, the Polished Turd. Awarded to the player who performed best in their team's losses is an award created by Ethan. After Fremantle's win over the Lions to close round 1, I was thinking about our Brownlow votes, and I realized that Harris Andrews played quite well, but realized he also wouldn't receive any recognition in Brownlow votes or coaches' votes. I decided to rectify this by creating the Polished Turd. It's a simple award. The best player on the losing team, as decided by us, receives 1 point. If the game ends in a draw, no vote is awarded. In the event of a tie for the Polished Turd, the award will go to the player who had the fewest chances to earn votes by playing in the fewest losses. Note, that's individual games played, not team games played. Also, after we made our votes, we closed them off to us. We were going into every round blind. I feel like maybe we should have said that earlier. Before we announce the Polished Turd winner, we have a few players to recognize for their efficiency. Will Ashcroft played in just 2 losses, but earned the Polished Turd vote in Brisbane's round 22 defeat at the hands of GWS. Despite his extremely late start to the season, Riley Philthorpe earned a pair of votes across 4 Crows losses, and while Christian Petrarca's season ended early, he earned 3 votes from 6 losses played. The most efficient of them all, though, was Zach Butters, who played in 7 losses and earned the Polished Turd vote in 4 of them. That makes Butters 3rd place in this year's tally via a tiebreaker, beating out fellow 4-vote recipients Harry Sheasel, Tom Barris, Patrick Cripps, and Nick Dacos. Luke Davies-Uniacke finished in 2nd, receiving the award 5 times in 20 games, but the winner of the inaugural Polished Turd is Daniel Rioli of the Richmond Tigers. Daniel was deemed as Richmond's best player in 6 of the Tigers' 21 losses, earning him the outright award. And yet he has 0 votes through our standings so far through 12 rounds, which kind of highlights the purpose of this award. So thank you to Harris Andrews for being my inspiration. Thank you to the small handful of players that put up good games even when their teams get absolutely rolled. And thank you to you for taking interest. And we've already reached the halfway point on America's Brownlow night. Round 13 belonged to the bottom of the ladder, with the Tigers finally ending their skid in cathartic fashion against the Crows in Adelaide. Brisbane looked like flag contenders in a thorough win over the Bulldogs on Friday night. Then on Saturday, attention turned to the umpires. First came the downfield free that gave the Hawks a come-from-behind win over the Giants in Tasmania. Then a quick holding the ball gave the Caggies their first win of the year over the Eagles. Another downfield free gave the Saints the go-ahead goal as they emerged victorious in the King kerfuffle, and Gold Coast continued their road woes. Sydney overcame a slow start, turning a 30-point deficit into a 30-point win over Geelong, and Carlton prevailed over an inaccurate Essendon side before more than 88,000. Collingwood got the better of the D's on the King's birthday, with Jack Crisp taking home the Neil Danaher Trophy. Round 13. Adelaide 71, Richmond 79. Richmond S. Bolton 1 vote. Richmond N. Balta 2 votes. Richmond L. Baker 3 votes. Western Bulldogs 71, Brisbane 114. Brisbane J. Berry 1 vote. Brisbane E. Hipwood 2 votes. Brisbane L. Neal 3 votes. Hawthorn 85, GWS 79. Hawthorn C. Nash 1 vote. Hawthorn J. Warple 2 votes. GWS, X. O'Halloran, 3 votes. West Coast 65, North Melbourne 74. North Melbourne T. Jerry 1 vote. North Melbourne J. Simpkin 2 votes. North Melbourne L. Davies Uniac 3 votes. St. Kilda 51, Gold Coast 48. Yikes. St. Kilda M. Windhager 1 vote. St. Kilda P. Dow 2 votes. St. Kilda N. Wanganeen Malera 3 votes. Sydney 112, Geelong 82. Sydney I. Heaney 1 vote. Sydney B. Grundy 2 votes. Sydney E. Golden 3 votes. Essendon 70, Carlton 96. Carlton E. Hollins 1 vote. Carlton G. Hewitt 2 votes. Carlton T. DeConing 3 votes. Collingwood 89, Melbourne 51. Collingwood W. Hoskin L 1 vote. Collingwood I. Quainer 2 votes. Collingwood J. Crisp 3 votes. Round 14 was all about the offense, starting with Joe Danaher's monster showing in Brisbane's win over the Saints. Riley West kicked 4, Rory Lobb kicked 3, and Marcus Bontempelli starred all over as the Bulldogs put up a record score on Fremantle, and though it was Dusty's day at the G, it was the young Hawks that dominated on the Oval. The Swans overcame another slow start, this time thanks to Joel Amarty's 9-goal outburst at Adelaide. A perplexing sub-decision, a monster fourth quarter from Nick Dacos, 2 Bobby Hill hangers, and some interesting calls gave the Pies the fuel to complete a 54-point comeback against North, to nobody's satisfaction, and the Giants overcame inaccuracy to dispatch the power for a much-needed home win.
Just want to note quickly, that Richmond and Hawthorn game, over 92,000 in attendance. Second biggest crowd of the year. Biggest Saturday crowd ever. Round 14. Brisbane 126, St Kilda 106. Brisbane R. Lester 1 vote. Brisbane J. Danaher 2 votes. Brisbane H. McCluggage 3 votes. Western Bulldogs 149, Fremantle 82. Western Bulldogs A. Treloar 1 vote. Western Bulldogs T. Liberatore 2 votes. Western Bulldogs M. Bontempelli 3 votes. Richmond 49, Hawthorn 97. Hawthorn J. Sicily 1 vote. Richmond T. Taranto 2 votes. Hawthorn J. Newcomb 3 votes. Adelaide 67, Sydney 109. Sydney E. Goulden 1 vote. Sydney B. Grundy 2 votes. Sydney J. Amarty 3 votes. North Melbourne 118, Collingwood 119. Hey, 119. Collingwood J. Crisp 1 vote. Collingwood and Dacos 2 votes. North Melbourne G. Wardlaw 3 votes. GWS 73, Port Adelaide 51. GWS Tom Green 1 vote. GWS J. Kelly 2 votes. Port Adelaide D. Houston 3 votes. Tom DeConing evened the score with his brother as Carlton recording a convincing win over Geelong in the round 15 opener. Saturday was supposed to be a festive one at the Adelaide Oval as the Power celebrated their 2004 flag team, but Brisbane flew home with a 79-point victory and left Ken Hinckley's job in doubt. The Swans finished off a Sydney Derby sweep on the road as Errol Goulding captured his 3rd straight Brett Kirk medal. Thanks, Basil. And Melbourne held on for dear life for a much-needed win against the Roos. Essendon took care of West Coast under the roof, and Fremantle handled business at home against the Suns to round out the last of the bye weeks.
Round 15. Carlton 138, Geelong 75. Carlton M. Owies 1 vote. Carlton S. Walsh 2 votes. Carlton T. DeConing 3 votes. Port Adelaide 73, Brisbane 152. Brisbane E. Hipwood 1 vote. Brisbane J. Dunkley 2 votes. Brisbane O. McInerney 3 votes. GWS 75, Sydney 102. Sydney I. Heaney 1 vote. Sydney E. Golden 2 votes. Sydney J. Rowbottom 3 votes. Melbourne 70, North Melbourne 67. Melbourne J. Viney 1 vote. North Melbourne G. Wardlaw 2 votes. North Melbourne L. Davies Uniac 3 votes. Essendon 122, West Coast 92. Essendon J. Stringer 1 vote. Essendon S. Durham 2 votes. Essendon J. Caldwell 3 votes. Fremantle 85, Gold Coast 65. Fremantle S. Darcy 1 vote. Fremantle H. Young 2 votes. Fremantle A. Brayshaw 3 votes.
So we're through the bye rounds now. Everybody's played 14 games through the count. And we've got 16 players with at least 10 votes. Isaac Heaney with a 1-vote lead over Nick Dacos, with Lockie Neal making up the active podium. Round 16 gave us a taste of State of Origin as Hugh McCluggage converted Alex Neil-Boland's late try to give the Lions a thrilling win over Melbourne. The usual suspects led the Bulldogs past North at Marvel, while Sydney's 10-game winning streak came to an end on Logan McDonald's after the siren miss against the Dockers. The home Suns struck again, this time against Collingwood, and the Crows finally played up to their potential against a slumping Orange team. Geelong's skid ended as the Cats continued their country game dominance against Essendon, and Port Adelaide escaped against the Saints with Ken Hinckley's seat hotter than ever. Carlton outclassed Richmond at the G, and the Hawks made it 5 in a row by throttling the Eagles at Optus. Round 16. Brisbane 86, Melbourne 81. Melbourne K. Pickett 1 vote. Melbourne C. Oliver 2 votes. Brisbane J. Dunkley 3 votes. North Melbourne 60, Western Bulldogs 77. Western Bulldogs T. Liberatore 1 vote. Western Bulldogs R. Lobb 2 votes. Western Bulldogs M. Bontempelli 3 votes. Sydney 98, Fremantle 99. Sydney J. McInerney 1 vote. Fremantle Cecil Wrong 2 votes. Sydney and Blakey 3 votes. Gold Coast 101, Collingwood 90. Gold Coast Ed Anderson 1 vote. Gold Coast T. Miller 2 votes. Collingwood and Dacos 3 votes. Adelaide 94, GWS 78. Adelaide B. Keys 1 vote. Adelaide M. Hinge 2 votes. Adelaide I. Rankin 3 votes. Geelong 105, Essendon 60. Geelong M. Blitzovs 1 vote. Geelong G. Myers 2 votes. Geelong O. Dempsey 3 votes. St Kilda 60, Port Adelaide 62. St Kilda M. Wood 1 vote. St Kilda N. Wangani Millera 2 votes. Port Adelaide J. Horn Francis 3 votes. Richmond 70, Carlton 131. Carlton S. Walsh 1 vote. Carlton E. Hollins 2 votes. Carlton P. Cripps 3 votes. West Coast 33, Hawthorn 94. Hawthorn J. Sicily 1 vote. Hawthorn J. Warple 2 votes. Hawthorn J. Newcomb 3 votes. I think we noticed through this, Ethan, just how many players in the AFL have J first names.
I mean, there have been multiple Crows games with like 3 Js.
Hawks just had one. Earlier, I know we had 3 B last names getting votes for Richmond, which, given the colors, is fitting. Anyway, 2 of the sport's biggest rivals opened round 17, and it was Zach Barrett leading Essendon past the Pies in front of nearly 82,000 at the G. The Suns remained winless on the road, as North Melbourne tallied victory number 2 of the year and sang in Victoria for the first time since their 2023 opener, and Port Adelaide's midfield tore the Bulldogs apart. Hawthorn made a rare trip down the highway and got sent packing like Geelong. The Giants brought the Tsunami back after falling into an early 39-point hole against the Blues, and Freo took care of the Tigers, who couldn't even keep their banner together on a wet night in Perth. Melbourne had no trouble with the Eagles on Sunday. The Swans wasted every possible opportunity against the Saints, forcing this idiot to walk from San Diego to Los Angeles, and Brisbane picked up another one at the Gabba against a resilient Crows outfit. Round 17. Collingwood 80, Essendon 92. Collingwood S. Sidebottom 1 vote. Essendon S. Durham 2 votes. Essendon Z. Merritt 3 votes. North Melbourne 87, Gold Coast 83. North Melbourne L. Davies Uiak 1 vote. North Melbourne H. Sheasel 2 votes. North Melbourne T. Powell 3 votes. Port Adelaide 102, Western Bulldogs 54.
Port Adelaide Z. Butters 1 vote. Port Adelaide J. Horn Francis 2 votes. Port Adelaide C. Rosie 3 votes. Geelong 110, Hawthorn 59. Geelong J. Bowes 1 vote. Geelong J. Cameron 2 votes. Geelong T. Stewart 3 votes. GWS 116, Carlton 104. GWS T. Bedford 1 vote. GWS Tom Green 2 votes. GWS F. Callahan 3 votes. Fremantle 105, Richmond 54. Fremantle L. Jackson 1 vote. Fremantle A. Brayshaw 2 votes. Fremantle J. Tracy 3 votes. Melbourne 112, West Coast 58. Melbourne J. Van Rooyen 1 vote. Melbourne C. Windsor 2 votes. Melbourne T. Rivers 3 votes. St. Kilda 84, Sydney 82. St. Kilda R. Burns 1 vote. St. Kilda M. Filippo 2 votes. St. Kilda C. Wilkie 3 votes. Brisbane 97, Adelaide 86. Brisbane W. Ashcroft 1 vote. Brisbane J. Dunkley 2 votes. Brisbane L. Neal 3 votes. Geelong took down the Magpies on Friday night, the Cats' first win over Collingwood since their unforgettable 2022 final. While that final was unforgettable, Max Holmes forgot the score and didn't realize his goal had given them the lead. It was another successful trip to Tasmania for the Hawks, thanks to a brilliant move to send James Sicily forward in a win over the Dockers, and Sydney took out some frustrations on the Roos. Despite kicking 7 behinds to start the game, the Bulldogs triumphed over the Blues at Marvel. Adelaide handled St. Kilda at home in the rain, and a goneless Demon side prevailed against Essendon. The Suns did it yet again at home, topping Port Adelaide, and the Orange Tsunami rolled into Melbourne to sweep away the Tigers. West Coast finished off the round with a heartfelt farewell to Adam Simpson, but it was the Lions who left with the 4 points as they secured their 6th win in a row in their first game against the Eagles at Optus Stadium.
Only took 7 seasons. Round 18. Collingwood 71, Geelong 91. Geelong J. Bowes 1 vote. Geelong L. Humphreys 2 votes. Geelong G. Myers 3 votes. Hawthorn 87, Fremantle 74. Hawthorn C. Nash 1 vote. Hawthorn W. Day 2 votes. Fremantle H. Young 3 votes. Sydney 138, North Melbourne 59. Sydney T. Papley 1 vote. Sydney Chad Warner 2 votes. Sydney E. Golden 3 votes.
That Papley guy loves a celebration.
Ooh yeah, loves a bill. Western Bulldogs 100, Carlton 86. Carlton J. Wiedering 1 vote. Western Bulldogs J. Ugle Hagen 2 votes. Western Bulldogs R. West 3 votes. Adelaide 71, St. Kilda 39. This was wet.
Giggity.
Adelaide R. Laird 1 vote. Adelaide B. Keys 2 votes. Adelaide L. Scholl 3 votes. Melbourne 84, Essendon 67. Essendon N. Martin 1 vote. Melbourne J. McVie 2 votes. Melbourne S. May 3 votes. Gold Coast 96, Port Adelaide 82. Gold Coast W. Powell 1 vote. Gold Coast N. Anderson 2 votes. Gold Coast S. Collins 3 votes. Richmond 84, GWS 108. GWS H. Himmelberg 1 vote. GWS F. Callahan 2 votes. GWS Toby Green 3 votes. West Coast 93, Brisbane 106. Brisbane J. Dunkley 1 vote. Brisbane O. McInerney 2 votes. Brisbane L. Neal 3 votes. And with that best on ground performance, Lachie Neale is the leader through round 18 by a single vote over Nick Dacos, Isaac Heaney, Marcus Bontempelli, the next closest at hand. It's time now to recognize the goal of the year. I'll admit, while there were a lot of quality goals this year, moments that made you go, whoa, which is how I evaluate what makes a really impressive goal, last year's top 3 or even 4 kind of outclassed this year's. I mean, it's going to be tough for anything to top Will Ashcroft's inside of the boot Jackie Chan for a while. And we thought just a week prior to that, if you think back that far, that Charlie Cameron had wrapped it up in Canberra with the toe tapper. Last year wasn't just one great goal, it was like 4. There are still some very good ones this year, and it was tough to narrow it down. We entered the day, actually, really about 30 minutes before recording this, if even that. We had, I think, 8 or 9 nominees, and we finally got it down to a final 3 and made our decision. So, our Goal of the Year nominees: Tyson Stengel, round 13 against Sydney.
Kick into the pocket, bypassed Hawkins, not Stengel. Anything possible with Tyson Stengel!
Ed Richards, round 19 at Geelong.
Sock it forward, bouncing football, on to goal!
And Ashton Moyer, round 23 at West Coast, his first career goal.
And then a clever goal! How about that for your debut?
And the winner of America's Goal of the Year for 2024 is Tyson Stengel for his bouncer from the right pocket against the Sydney Swans in round 13. Undoubtedly the highlight of that night for Geelong. Congratulations to Tyson.
I will actually admit, I only saw that goal like maybe 20 or 30 minutes after, because I was napping through the opening bounce and ended up having to catch up. I was caught up by probably halftime of that game. But even watching it, like, without it quite being in real time, it still had the whoa effect on me.
Were you in California for that game?
I was in Tennessee.
Pretty well traveled, this guy. He's been to all 30 Major League ballparks now. That and all of this was recorded during the pre-finals bye. However, since then, a more deserving Goal of the Year winner was kicked. Now presenting the true winner for America's Goal of the Year.
On the up, Cameron, around the body, cheers up! Piss off!
Congratulations and piss off, Jeremy Cameron. We now return to your regularly scheduled programming. Maybe Essendon and Adelaide should be a permanent Friday night fixture, as the two sides wowed us again to open round 19, with the Crows coming from the clouds in the final minutes to complete a season sweep. There was another sweep on the cards when GWS beat the Suns again. St Kilda rolled past West Coast at Marvel, and Jack Ginnivan made the most of the spotlight as the Hawks thrashed Collingwood. The Bulldogs handed the Cats their worst home loss in 53 years at an exceptionally muddy Cardinia Park, and Port Adelaide pulled away late against a scrappy Richmond side. Brisbane made it 7 wins in a row, handing the Swans a 3rd loss in 4 weeks of the process, and Freo was far too good for the undermanned Demons. Carlton won a 6th straight meeting with North Melbourne, but had to work for it under the roof. Round 19. Essendon 113, Adelaide 115. Essendon S. Durham 1 vote. Adelaide B. Keys 2 votes. Essendon Z. Merritt 3 votes. GWS 89, Gold Coast 50. GWS T. Bedford 1 vote. GWS J. Buckley 2 votes. GWS C. Iden 3 votes. St. Kilda 113, West Coast 41. St. Kilda J. Sinclair 1 vote. St. Kilda Z. Jones 2 votes. St. Kilda T. Membry 3 votes. Hawthorn 133, Collingwood 67. Hawthorn C. Nash 1 vote. Hawthorn M. D'Ambrosio 2 votes. Hawthorn J. Ginnivan 3 votes. Geelong 48, Western Bulldogs 95. Western Bulldogs T. English 1 vote. Western Bulldogs A. Treloar 2 votes. Western Bulldogs E. Richards 3 votes. Port Adelaide 116, Richmond 75. Port Adelaide C. Rosie 1 vote. Port Adelaide B. Zirk Thatcher 2 votes. Port Adelaide D. Houston 3 votes. Brisbane 79, Sydney 77. Sydney W. Hayward 1 vote. Brisbane H. McCluggage 2 votes. Brisbane C. Rayner 3 votes. Fremantle 116, Melbourne 66. Fremantle A. Brayshaw 1 vote. Fremantle H. Young 2 votes. Fremantle C. Sarong 3 votes. Carlton 107, North Melbourne 88. Carlton C. Curnow 1 vote. Carlton G. Hewitt 2 votes. North Melbourne, H. Cheezel, 3 votes.
Port Adelaide made a habit out of winning on Friday nights and winning at Marvel, and the Power continued that with a 31-point comeback against the slumping Blues. Geelong pulled away from a spirited Rouge side in Tasmania, Brisbane ended the Suns' perfect home record before a record Q-Clash crowd, and the Saints put Essendon's finals hopes in serious doubt. Melbourne started and finished strong, but it wasn't enough to beat the Giants, and Fremantle surged in the second half to avoid getting swept in the Western Derby. Nick Dacos starred again in Collingwood's win over Richmond, and the Swans' slow start turned into a full-game stumble in a home loss to the Bulldogs. Hawthorn finished the round in style, holding the Crows goalless for almost the entire second half, in a convincing road win.
Round 20. Carlton 65, Port Adelaide 79. Carlton, C. Curnow, 1 vote. Port Adelaide, A. Alir, 2 votes. Port Adelaide, O. Wines, 3 votes. North Melbourne 66, Geelong 106. North Melbourne, H. Sheasel, 1 vote. Geelong, O. Dempsey, 2 votes. Geelong, T. Stewart, 3 votes. St Kilda 108, Essendon 55. St Kilda, J. Steele, 1 vote. St Kilda, N. Wanganeen Millera, 2 votes. St Kilda, C. Sharman, 3 votes. Melbourne 83, GWS 85. GWS, J. Hogan, 1 vote. GWS, J. Peatling, 2 votes. GWS, F. Callahan, 3 votes. Sydney 48, Western Bulldogs 87. Western Bulldogs, J. Ugle-Hagan, 1 vote. Western Bulldogs, E. Richards, 2 votes. Western Bulldogs, A. Treloar, 3 votes. Adelaide 58, Hawthorn 124. Hawthorn, J. Newcomb, 1 vote. Hawthorn, C. McDonald, 2 votes. Hawthorn, W. Day, 3 votes. Gold Coast 65, Brisbane 93. Brisbane, D. Wilmot, 1 vote. Brisbane, L. Neal, 2 votes. Brisbane, C. Rayner, 3 votes. Fremantle 110, West Coast 75. Fremantle, J. Tracy, 1 vote. Fremantle, A. Brayshaw, 2 votes. Fremantle, C. Sarong, 3 votes. Collingwood 93, Richmond 67. Collingwood, S. Pendlebury, 1 vote. Collingwood, D. Cameron, 2 votes. Collingwood, N. Dacos, 3 votes.
I think it's time to take one more look at our leaderboard, where Nick Dacos and Lachie Neale have separated themselves from the pack, at least for the moment, but there are still plenty of candidates with at least 15 votes, including 3 Dockers, 3 Swans, 2 of which are eligible, and 2 members of Port Adelaide. The Bulldogs continued their exceptional form with a Friday night win over the D's that also saw the Eagles rise late to hand the Suns yet another road loss. North Melbourne ensured Richmond would be alone at the bottom of the ladder after a 13-point win at Marvel Stadium, and Geelong toughed one out at home over a resilient Crows outfit. Scott Pendlebury's 400th game more than lived up to the hype, with Collingwood holding off a late Carlton charge as Mitch McGovern's bid to win the game after the siren went wide. Sydney had one of the worst possible weeks for a ladder leader, falling by 112 at Port Adelaide, while their crosstown rivals all but secured their final spot, with Tom Green's late winner finishing a wild one over the Hawks. Essendon kept their season alive with a comeback win over Fremantle, capped off by Sam Durham's behind to win. After a round full of thrillers, the Saints and Lions gave fans a gentle final chapter, with Brisbane racing to an 85-point victory. Round 21. West Coast 97, Gold Coast 87. Gold Coast W. Powell 1 vote. Gold Coast M. Rowell 2 votes. West Coast T. Kelly 3 votes. North Melbourne 90, Richmond 77. North Melbourne J. Archer 1 vote. North Melbourne H. Sheasel 2 votes. North Melbourne L. Davies Udiak 3 votes. Geelong 90, Adelaide 85. Geelong P. Dangerfield 1 vote. Adelaide R. Thilthorpe 2 votes. Geelong J. Cameron 3 votes. GWS 84, Hawthorn 82. GWS Toby Green 1 vote. Hawthorn J. Newcomb 2 votes. GWS J. Hogan 3 votes. Essendon 90, Fremantle 89.
Fremantle H. Young 1 vote. Essendon D. Shield 2 votes. Essendon J. Caldwell 3 votes. St. Kilda 39, Brisbane 124. Brisbane K. Lohman 1 vote. Brisbane H. McCluggage 2 votes. Brisbane C. Rayner 3 votes. Western Bulldogs 110, Melbourne 59. Western Bulldogs B. Dale 1 vote. Western Bulldogs A. Treloar 2 votes. Western Bulldogs M. Bontempelli 3 votes. Port Adelaide 148, Sydney 36. Port Adelaide M. Georgiadis 1 vote. Port Adelaide J. Horn Francis 2 votes. Port Adelaide W. Drew 3 votes. Collingwood 84, Carlton 81. Collingwood D. Cameron 1 vote. Carlton G. Hewitt 2 votes. Carlton P. Cripps 3 votes.
That has considerably tightened things up. Neither of the top 2 polled in round 21. And that means we have 15 players officially within striking distance. Bontempelli, Cripps, and Francis, and Sarong all really helping their cases there. Throughout this season, we tracked every substitution through every game. We have a document that we've shared that chronicles all of that. And we split those substitutions into 5 categories. Medical is pretty self-explanatory. You suck when a player is subbed out for poor performance. Victory cigar when a top player is subbed out because his team has an insurmountable lead. Unused, which is also very self-explanatory. And tactical, which covers everything else, from just wanting to get fresh legs on to going smaller or taller, getting in more speed, bringing in an extra forward or defender to stage a comeback or fend off a team, preserve a lead, or when Luke Beveridge makes a weird substitution that we just can't comprehend. Here are our findings. This is a good way to tell which teams had to adjust a lot for injuries in-game, and Port Adelaide had the most medical substitutions in the home and away season with 13 of them. Essendon and Carlton were close behind with 12, as well as Melbourne. Port Adelaide made the most medical substitutions with
13!
Yes, Hutto, 13. Gold Coast and Hawthorn tied for the fewest medical subs with 5. And for Hawthorn, I think you could really talk about a case of availability being the best ability for a lot of their players. You can see how their form turned once Will Day was able to come back. Adelaide and Fremantle tied for the most tactical substitutions with 11, and GWS made the fewest, just 4. The Giants also made the most you suck subs at 10. Adam Kingsley was not messing around, while the Bombers and Bulldogs each made just 2 you suck substitutions. The Victory Cigar was employed 10 times, with the Bulldogs, Hawks, and Swans each using it twice. And there were 5 unused subs this year, all in wins. GWS was the only team to go through multiple games without using their sub. Brent Daniels in round 7 and Joe Fonte in round 20. Also, 2 of the unused subs share a surname. Garcia! Slap abs! Only 2 Garcias in the league.
Sydney's late comeback to open round 22 all but extinguished Collingwood's hopes of a repeat, and a strong finish from the Giants put an end to Brisbane's 4-game winning streak, while also handing the hosts a 4th loss at the Gabba. Oscar Allen's late heroics gave West Coast a rare road win over the Roos at Blundstone Arena, and Geelong both started and finished strong to take down the Dockers in Perth. Mac Andrew etched his name into AFL lore and into Bombers fans' nightmares with an after-the-siren winner, the 3rd time Essendon has lost a game after the siren in the last 3 years. Port Adelaide slogged out a win over Melbourne in front of more seagulls than people, and Hawthorn entered the 8 after crushing a badly injured Carlton side. St. Kilda continued a strong finish to the year with a win over Richmond as the Tigers, shocker, lost at Marvel. And the Crows had one of their signature "where the hell had this been all year" games with a thumping of the Bulldogs at the Adelaide Oval.
Round 22. Sydney 89, Collingwood 86. Sydney, I. Heaney 1 vote. Collingwood, S. Sidebottom 2 votes. Sydney, Chad Warner 3 votes. Brisbane 64, GWS 82.
GWS, Tom Green, 1 vote. Brisbane, W. Ashcroft, 2 votes. GWS, J. Peatling, 3 votes. North Melbourne, 97, West Coast, 102. North Melbourne, T. Jerry, 1 vote. West Coast, O. Allen, 2 votes. West Coast, J. McGovern, 3 votes. Richmond, 51, St Kilda, 99. St Kilda, J. Sinclair, 1 vote. St Kilda, J. Battle, 2 votes. St Kilda, R. Marshall, 3 votes. Adelaide, 111, Western Bulldogs, 72. Adelaide, D. Fogarty, 1 vote. Adelaide, M. Crouch, 2 votes. Adelaide, L. Scholl, 3 votes. Carlton, 38, Hawthorn, 112. Hawthorn, J. Impey, 1 vote. Hawthorn, D. Moore, 2 votes. Hawthorn, J. Newcomb, 3 votes. Fremantle, 62, Geelong, 73. Geelong, J. Henry, 1 vote. Fremantle, H. Young, 2 votes. Fremantle, C. Sarong, 3 votes. Essendon, 86, Gold Coast, 87. Essendon, Z. Merritt, 1 vote. Essendon, D. Shield, 2 votes. Gold Coast, M. Rowell, 3 votes. Melbourne, 51, Port Adelaide, 53. Port Adelaide, Z. Butters, 1 vote. Melbourne, M. Gawn, 2 votes. Port Adelaide, J. Horn Francis, 3 votes. With 2 rounds to go, neither of the leaders have been able to break their tie. Nick Dacos and Lachie Neale remain tied at 24. And we've got a good crop close behind. Marcus Bontempelli, a late charge from Jason Horn-Francis and Caleb Sarong, all at 21. The ineligible Isaac Heaney and Matt Rowell both at 20, as well as 5 players tied at 18, highlighted by Patrick Cripps, Jai Newcomb, who led Hawthorn's elite season charge, and a player who became one of my personal favorites this year, Hayden Young. This is by and large an unbiased award. I think, as you can tell by the count at this point, this is not a ploy for Ethan to get Brian Myers further recognition. Brian has gotten a few votes, and deservedly so. And Brian Harambe is just off camera. He's now staring at me because I said his name. Brian, you're named after a really cool dude. If Essendon's finals hopes weren't already dead entering round 23, Sydney handed them a shovel. It was Melbourne first at People First Stadium, with the D's pulling away in the second half to defeat the Suns, and GWS locked up a finals berth while putting the Dockers' postseason hopes on the ropes. The Pies had one last bit of magic in them, storming back late to crush the Lions' top 4 hopes, and Port Adelaide snapped a 3-game showdown losing streak in a match that had plenty of bite. See, it's a teeth pop. St Kilda's 63-point second-half turnaround threw a wrench into Geelong's plans for a top 2 spot, and the Bulldogs took a big step towards September by thrashing North. The Hawks continued their fine form by smashing Richmond, and a Carlton squad decimated by injuries had no trouble with the Eagles, who said farewell to Andrew Gaff. Round 23. Essendon 59, Sydney 98. Sydney O. Florent 1 vote. Sydney E. Golden 2 votes. Sydney I. Heaney 3 votes. Gold Coast 63, Melbourne 117. Melbourne T. Rivers 1 vote. Melbourne A. Neil Bullen 2 votes. Melbourne J. Viney 3 votes. GWS 101, Fremantle 92. GWS Tom Green 1 vote. GWS J. Hogan 2 votes. GWS B. Daniels 3 votes. St Kilda 107, Geelong 89. St Kilda J. Steele 1 vote. St Kilda C. Wilkie 2 votes. St Kilda D. Wilson 3 votes. Hawthorn 131, Richmond 68. Hawthorn J. Warple 1 vote. Hawthorn D. Moore 2 votes. Hawthorn J. Newcomb 3 votes. West Coast 34, Carlton 99. Carlton G. Hewitt 1 vote. Carlton M. Kennedy 2 votes. Carlton P. Cripps 3 votes. Port Adelaide 80, Adelaide 58. Adelaide J. Dawson 1 vote. Port Adelaide, J. Horn Francis, 2 votes. Port Adelaide, Z. Butters, 3 votes. Western Bulldogs, 138. North Melbourne, 42. Western Bulldogs, A. Treloar, 1 vote. Western Bulldogs, M. Bontempelli, 2 votes. Western Bulldogs, S. Darcy, 3 votes. Collingwood, 79. Brisbane, 78. Brisbane, O. McInerney, 1 vote. Brisbane, L. Neal, 2 votes. Collingwood, N. Dacos, 3 votes.
And those 2 votes there, the 5 really for Neal and Dacos, mean they are the only 2 eligible to win at this point. The group there are 23 and 21, some great late charges, but it's been narrowed down to 2 stars with just 1 round to be counted.
Nerding out over data analysis, I like looking at some of the down ballot stuff as well. So, again, credit to Jai Newcomb for an awesome second half to the season, really the final third of the season in particular. Patrick Cripps has made a substantial move. Matt Rowell, both starting and finishing strong. Both Zach Butters and Jason Horne-Francis in there. And of course, Marcus Bontempelli, who I've said rappers should be shouting out in lyrics.
It's been cool looking at the comparisons between Horne-Francis and Butters with Sarong, Young, and Brayshaw for Freo. Those are types that tend to be bunched up together, may take some votes away from each other. It's happened a lot, where a star who's maybe gotten out to a fast start hasn't been able to close because somebody else has risen up alongside him. I think Jack Viney was the riser last year that really shook things up.
Collingwood fans never planned on their Friday night meeting with Melbourne being a dead rubber, but Pies fans went into the offseason on a happy note. An electrician strike in Tasmania moved Hawthorn's game up a few hours, but North didn't seem to get the memo, as the Hawks secured their first finals berth since 2018. Geelong opened up a triple-digit halftime lead to gain a percentage boost against the Eagles and ensure a top 4 berth. And the Suns won in their lone trip to the G for the year with Damian Hardwick in the building to see off Dustin Martin, Dylan Grimes, and Marlon Pickett. Brisbane's inaccuracy continued in a win over Essendon, as the Swans made their minor premiership official with a resounding win over the Crows. The Bulldogs made their finals return official with a triumph against the Giants in Ballarat, and the Blues faced elimination after Jack Higgins' late winner, only for the Dockers to bow out with a 4th consecutive loss, this one at home to Port Adelaide.
These things happen. They were glorious, they changed the world. And then we fucked up the end game. Charlie Wilson. Round 24. Hawthorn, 170. North Melbourne, 46. Hawthorn, D. Moore, 1 vote. Hawthorn, M. D'Ambrosio, 2 votes. Hawthorn, J. Newcomb, 3 votes. Geelong, 168. West Coast, 75. Geelong, T. Broon, 1 vote. Geelong, P. Dangerfield, 2 votes. Geelong, J. Cameron, 3 votes. Richmond, 66. Gold Coast, 94. Gold Coast, J. Witts, 1 vote. Gold Coast, M. Rowell, 2 votes. Gold Coast, S. Flanders, 3 votes. Sydney, 121. Adelaide, 90. Sydney, C. Mills, 1 vote. Sydney, N. Blakey, 2 votes. Sydney, E. Golden, 3 votes. Western Bulldogs, 98. GWS, 61. Western Bulldogs, C. Waitman, 1 vote. Western Bulldogs, B. Dale, 2 votes. Western Bulldogs, M. Bontempelli, 3 votes. Carlton, 74. St Kilda, 76. Carlton, A. Sod, 1 vote. Woof. St Kilda, M. Filippo, 2 votes. Carlton, P. Cripps, 3 votes. Fremantle, 67. Port Adelaide, 87. Port Adelaide, B. Zirk Thatcher, 1 vote. Port Adelaide, Z. Butters, 2 votes. Port Adelaide, J. Horn Francis, 3 votes. Brisbane, 87. Essendon, 67. Essendon, Z. Merritt, 1 vote. Brisbane, J. Dunkley, 2 votes. Brisbane, L. Neal, 3 votes.
Melbourne 57, Collingwood 103. Collingwood. Jay Crisp, 1 vote. Collingwood. S. Sidebottom, 2 votes. Collingwood. N. Dacos, 3 votes. I declare the winner of the inaugural America's Brownlow, Nick Dacos of the Collingwood Football Club. The final margin for Nick Dacos, a single vote over Lachie Neale, and that round 23 win with his clutch performance looms extremely large because of that. Bontempelli and Horne-Francis tying for third, and a strong crop of 11 players in total amassed at least 20 votes. As we wrap this up, a couple of fun little notes. 242 different players received at least 1 vote this year. Amounts to about a quarter of the league, I believe. Couple of statistical anomalies that I found interesting as we parsed over the numbers. Connor Nash and Scott Pendlebury, the only players to receive 3 1 votes, but no additional votes. James Rowbottom received 2 games with 3 votes and no other votes. Those were the 2 Sydney Derbies, so it was up to us. He would have both Brett Kirk medals. Thanks, Basil. Tom Stewart deserves mention for 3 games with 3 votes and no other votes. Noah Anderson received the most votes without ever having a 3-vote game. He had 4 2-vote games and 1 1-vote game, giving him a total of 9. Ooh, math. And Cam Rayner receiving 3 votes in 3 straight rounds 19 through 21. He finished with 12 votes. He had 4 games with 3 votes apiece. I think this proves Jeremy Cameron even more right, by the way. In terms of full-on forwards, he was the highest polling with a total of 14, including 4 best-on-ground performances. That 9-goal bag in the last round definitely made that an easier choice. In terms of true defenders, I mean, could you even consider Tom Stewart? Because he spent some time in the midfield. As ruckman go, Mike's gone with 11. I think it might be in Isaiah Waigani-Miller in terms of defenders with 12. I think of him as kind of a half defender with some midfield qualities. Nick Blakey down at 7 also deserves some recognition. You know who I don't see in the votes at all? Our polished turd winner, Daniel Rioli. He was a few times just outside the votes, but in some games, the top 3 to 5 or even beyond players were from whoever Richmond lost to, but he was pretty convincingly Richmond's best. And again, we do want to recognize him with the knowledge that even in their worst games, the losing team will have probably somewhere between 1 to 5 players that you can review positively. We will be sending Nick Dacos a congratulatory letter as well as a prize package of things that we consider particularly American. A visor from Buc-ee's, which, you know how Europeans like to talk about how their cities are so walkable and they have great public transit? We have Buc-ee's. It's a gas station with 120 pumps. And it's also got fresh jerky and brisket and fudge, and now I want to go to Buc-ee's again. We'll also be sending him another very American thing, a very West Coast thing, maybe to incentivize Nick to visit us out here, an In-N-Out Burger gift card. Highly recommend, if you're ever going to In-N-Out, please remember, this is my order. I don't think I'll ever get a celebrity meal. Just tell him Cactus Jack sent you. But double, add pickles, grilled onions, no tomato, ketchup and mustard instead. Sometimes I get the fries regular, sometimes I get them well done, and then beverage depends on my mood. More tomato? No, please. I don't know what it is with you and tomatoes, Ethan. Not a big fan. I mean, on margarita pizza, you kind of gotta have it. I'm just not a huge fan of tomato. I mean, I'm not, gonna run away from it, but it's not, if I have the option, I'll go without it. So, yeah, that's it. We did it. We got through the entire season of games. Most games we each watched in full. There were some blowouts during overlaps where only one of us really watched in full, and the other just kind of rubber stamped it, but we really did our due diligence on this. So I hope you've enjoyed, and if you have any debate over some of our votes, good, honestly. If you're mad about what we did, that means you care. I mean, I'd rather you come in and say, you guys got everything right. But if there's something that you don't agree with, just tweet at us, and we'll explain why we came to the solution we did.
I'm going to really look forward to comparing this to the actual Brownlow results. I'm going to have so much fun on Brownlow night. As someone who does not give a crap about major award shows like the Oscars, like, I'm going to be locked in, charting everyone's votes versus mine. And reminder, we did almost all of our viewing of these games live. And for us, for pretty much the entire season, prime time in Melbourne, 7:30 p.m., 2:30 a.m. for us. The earliest a game ever started was 7:30 p.m. here, and the latest starts were about, I think, 3:10 a.m. I don't think there was ever a 3:40 start with one of the Western games this year, but there were a couple 3:10s for sure. A derby, that Eagles-Suns win. I think the Freo-Sydney Friday night game as well. I don't think there was any later than that, but this has been honestly more work than we expected, and I expected it to be a decent undertaking. It's going to be a lot of work for me to actually put this all together. Thankfully, between the time we record this and the time you're actually seeing this, I'll have a few weeks. We had to do it now because he's getting surgery. You know those, like, shriveled little grapes that are, like, green on the bunch of red grapes? It's like that. And it's not going to be able to get to, like, full grape size, but it's going to at least be blueberry sized after he gets his procedure done. In actuality, I'm about to go back down to San Diego for my fall semester. I'm pursuing a master's and teaching credential. And you may end up on a street corner like the founder of Invisible Children. Ooh, please not. That was San Diego, though. Inspiration for some excellent South Park content. One of their best episodes, I must say. But I feel like now this is just kind of rambling, so just want to wrap this up by, again, thanking everybody for tuning in. Share this around. It took a whole lot of effort to make, so we want as many people to see this as possible. Follow all our social media channels. Just search up Americans Watching the Footy or even Americans Footy, and you'll get there. My name is Benjamin Castle. My individual handle is BenjaminHK01. I'm Ethan Castle. I'm on Twitter at Castle Media. Again, that's with a K. We might have a lower third here showing you. We might not, depending on how much extra graphic work it is for him. I really hope more than anything you guys enjoy just like parsing over the spreadsheet that we'll be sharing in association with this. So again, congrats not only to Nick Dacos, but to all 242 players who received votes at various points this year. I'm going to, in the coming weeks, do some fun data analysis, who received the most votes and losses. There were a handful of games where, the winning team got the 1 and then the losing team got the 2 and 3. There was no game where the losing team swept the votes, which in honor of Dan Hannaberry, we call a duck. You may want to go back to his final game for some recollection of that. Very last thing, congratulations to all the clubs for making their finals runs, and we look forward to the grand final this Saturday, Friday night for us, between
the Brisbane Lions
and
the Sydney Swans.
Until next time, Americans Watching the Footy, saying farewell from California.